My name is Haley Brooks, and I'm 37 years old. I live in a tall apartment building in the heart of Ravenshade, a quiet but growing city where every sunrise glows against glass windows and every evening feels like a fresh start. I work as an interior decorator, and for the past 10 years, I've been helping clients turn dull spaces into homes that feel alive. I live with my husband Nathan, who's 39 and works as a freight logistics manager. He's always been hardworking, kind, and calm, though his job keeps him traveling a lot. We have an 8-year-old son named Lucas, who is the light of my life. Bright, curious, and full of questions, Lucas has this way of making even a bad day feel like an adventure. Our home is on the 14th floor, filled with warm colors, soft lighting, and laughter. It took me years to make it feel like this, a safe, beautiful place where love lives in every corner. I thought we were in a good place. I truly did. But peace, as I've learned, is fragile. And it only takes one storm to tear it apart. Life was steady until my younger sister, Melanie, entered the picture. She's 31, single, and has always had a dramatic streak. Growing up, we were close. We shared a room, whispered secrets at night, and made silly promises about the future. But somewhere along the way, things changed. Melanie had been jumping between jobs for years, never really settling. One day, she called me out of the blue. Her voice sounded tired, softer than usual. She said she'd just lost her job again, this time from a boutique she barely lasted 2 months at, and she had nowhere to go. Her lease was up. Her savings were gone. She asked if she could stay with us, just for a few weeks. Without even thinking, I said yes. That's what family does, right? We help each other. Nathan was on the fence. He always saw through her charm, but I insisted. She needs us, I told him. She just needs a little time to get back on her feet. From the moment she moved in, things felt different. At first, Melanie acted grateful. She helped clean up, brought pastries from a bakery down the street, and even offered to babysit Lucas while I worked from home. But it didn't take long for her real colors to show. She started mocking my work, calling it fluff, and just picking curtains for rich people. She told me I was spoiling Lucas, giving him too many choices and not enough rules. She would constantly make backhanded comments like, "You're lucky Nathan puts up with all this soft stuff," or "Must be nice having a husband who doesn't mind paying for your little projects." Her tone always made it seem like she was joking, but I knew those weren't jokes. They were jabs, sharp and personal. I brushed it off at first. I reminded myself she was just stressed, that she didn't mean to hurt me. But deep down, I knew something was off. It wasn't just bitterness. It was jealousy, and it was growing like mold in a dark corner, quiet but dangerous. As days turned into weeks, Melanie made herself more at home. She slept in late, left her laundry everywhere, and treated our home like her own. What bothered me most wasn't the mess. It was the way she looked at me. Like I didn't deserve what I had. Like I had stolen the life she thought was meant for her. Nathan tried to stay polite, but I could see the tension in his jaw every time she criticized my choices in front of him. Lucas didn't say much, but he started spending more time in his room, not wanting to sit through the awkward dinners or listen to her complaints. Still, I held on to the hope that she'd find a job soon and move on. I didn't know then that Melanie wasn't looking for a fresh start. She was waiting for an opportunity. And when that opportunity came, she would do everything in her power to take what wasn't hers. It all changed one Thursday morning. I was drinking tea by the window when I received a call from a lawyer's office. The woman's voice on the line was professional but gentle. She explained that my Uncle Gerald, who had lived in another part of the state and kept mostly to himself, had passed away in his sleep 2 nights earlier. I hadn't spoken to him in years, not because of any falling out, but because he was one of those quiet souls who didn't like noise or company. Still, the news hit me hard. "Haley," the woman said, "your uncle left something behind for you. 2 apartments. Fully paid off. They're in a luxury building in North Ravendale." I was stunned. "What?" She confirmed it again. 2 fully furnished, high-rise apartments, side by side, in a peaceful neighborhood near the lake. Together, they were worth around $500,000. I sat in silence, clutching my teacup like it might fall. I'd never inherited anything before. My uncle had no children, no wife. He and I weren't exactly close, but he always sent me cards on my birthday when I was younger. I remembered his gentle eyes and quiet encouragement. Maybe he saw something in me others hadn't. Maybe this was his way of saying, "I believed in you." Nathan was thrilled when I told him. "We can finally plan ahead," he said. "Maybe save one for Lucas and rent out the other." It felt like a blessing, unexpected, humbling, and life-changing. But Melanie? Her reaction was something else entirely. When I mentioned the apartments over dinner, her fork stopped halfway to her mouth. She blinked once, twice. "Wait, you inherited what?" I explained everything, but I could already see the change in her expression. It was like a mask slowly peeling off. She wasn't smiling. Her eyes weren't curious, they were calculating. "That's amazing," she finally said, her voice flat. "You really lucked out, didn't you?" I tried to shrug it off. "I want to keep one for Lucas. The other I'll probably rent." She nodded, but something in her stare lingered. That night, she offered to wash the dishes, something she hadn't done in days. The next morning, she made pancakes and told Lucas he could have extra syrup. She even complimented my latest interior project, calling it actually pretty smart. I should have seen it then. The sudden kindness, the sweet smiles, the offers to help. They weren't real. She wasn't changing. She was plotting. A few evenings later, she sat next to me on the couch, legs crossed like she belonged there. "So, about those apartments," she began, her tone casual. "Have you thought about what you're going to do with them long term? I mean, managing them, handling paperwork, it's a lot." I nodded. "Yeah, I've spoken to a property manager already. I'm keeping one for Lucas and renting the other." She smiled, tight, sharp. "You know, you've got a lot on your plate. Between work, Lucas, and everything else, wouldn't it make more sense if I helped? Maybe I could even move into one of the units, take some weight off your shoulders." I looked at her directly. "They're for Lucas. It's his future. I'm not giving them away." Her smile faded. Just like that. Her lips tightened. Her jaw clenched. The room suddenly felt colder. She didn't argue, not that night. But I knew in my gut I had just created something far more dangerous than sibling tension. I had created an enemy. A week after that conversation, Nathan left for a 3-week work assignment in another city. He was flying out to Westwin, where he was overseeing a major shipping coordination deal. It was important, and the money would help us finally make repairs to Lucas's school fund and fix the broken windows we'd been putting off. I hugged him goodbye at the airport and forced a smile. Inside, I was anxious. I didn't like the idea of being left alone with Melanie. Still, I told myself I could handle it. Lucas was my focus. I had work, my projects, and now those 2 apartments to manage. I kept my mind busy and my days scheduled. But none of that could prepare me for what happened next. It was a rainy Wednesday. I went to pick up Lucas from school like I always did. The sidewalks were slippery, and I was wearing a pair of shoes I hadn't worn in months, heels I should have left in the closet. As I stepped onto the back stairway near the side exit of the school building, my heel caught a crack in the wet concrete. Time slowed. My foot twisted. I felt the weight of my body shift. My ankle folded, and suddenly I was airborne, falling hard against the steps. I hit my side, then my back, and then the sharp pain in my legs exploded like fire shooting up my spine. I couldn't move. I couldn't even scream at first. I just lay there, rain soaking through my clothes, staring up at the gray sky through blurred vision. "Mom." I heard Lucas's voice somewhere in the distance. "Mom." A teacher rushed over. More voices followed. Someone called 911. A man's face appeared above mine, concerned, shouting something, but I could barely make out the words. Everything was spinning. Then darkness. I woke up in a hospital bed, my head pounding. Everything ached. A nurse stood beside me, adjusting my 4-line, or what they call, IV. I tried to move and gasped in pain. "Don't try to sit up," she said gently. "You took a nasty fall." The doctors ran imaging. You have fractures in both legs, a sprain near your lower spine, and severe bruising along your ribs. The words didn't make sense right away. Both legs? Spine? I looked down. My legs were wrapped in thick casts, elevated by pillows. Machines beeped beside me. A dull, constant ache hummed through my body like background noise. How long will I be here? I asked, my voice hoarse. At least 2 weeks, she replied. Maybe longer. You'll need help with everything for a while. Everything? I looked around the sterile room. It smelled like alcohol and cotton. White walls, no windows. My heart dropped. I wasn't just hurt. I was helpless. Later that evening, Lucas came in with my neighbor Mrs. Langston, who had kindly picked him up after the school incident. He was holding a get well card and his favorite drawing of a superhero. His lip quivered when he saw me. I'm okay, baby, I whispered as he hugged me, trying not to press on the sore spots. I promise I'll be okay. He nodded, but his little fingers gripped my hand like he was afraid I'd vanish. I didn't tell him how scared I really was. I didn't tell him that I wasn't just afraid of the pain. I was afraid of who would walk through that hospital room door next. The next morning, the door creaked open slowly. I expected to see a nurse, or maybe Mrs. Langston again bringing Lucas back from school. But when I turned my head, I saw Melanie standing in the doorway. She didn't bring flowers. No get-well balloon. Not even a soft expression of concern. What she did bring was a large manila envelope, the kind lawyers use for contracts. Hey, she said casually, walking in like she had every right to be there. I need you to sign something. I blinked, confused. My throat went dry. What is it? Just a few transfer documents, she said, dropping the envelope across my lap without asking. For the apartment. You're in no shape to deal with this stuff right now. I'll take over managing everything. Just need your signature. My fingers twitched, reaching toward the nurse call button before I stopped myself. Was she serious? I took a breath, gathering the courage to speak through the fog in my head. No, I said quietly. I'm not signing anything. Melanie didn't move. Her arms slowly crossed over her chest. Her tone dropped, her eyes narrowing. You're making a big mistake, Haley. I'm trying to help you. You can't even walk. How do you plan to manage real estate? I didn't answer. I just stared at the wall and pressed the nurse call button without saying another word. Melanie stood there, the tension rising like a storm cloud. But when the nurse finally entered, she quickly slapped on a fake smile. Oh. Sorry, she chirped, turning toward the door. I'll come back later when she's feeling better. Then she walked out just like that. No apology. No concern. The moment the door clicked shut behind her, my hands started shaking. Not just from the physical pain, but from something deeper. A feeling of betrayal that pierced through my chest more painfully than any broken bone. This wasn't about helping me. This wasn't about concern. It was a plan. One she had likely been building from the moment she heard about the inheritance. And now that I was trapped in a hospital bed, unable to move or protect myself, she thought she could finish the job. Legally take everything. The apartment I planned to save for Lucas's future. My voice. My rights. My power. I spent that night sleepless, staring at the ceiling as the machines beeped and my spine ached. I kept hearing her voice in my head. You don't deserve the things you have. Lucas returned the next day after school with his tiny backpack and a juice box. He sat on the edge of my bed, swinging his legs and coloring while I tried to act like everything was fine. But even kids can feel the shift in the air. Mom, he asked, eyes big and serious. Why is Aunt Melanie always mad at you? I smiled weakly, brushing his hair with my fingers. She's just confused, honey. Some people get lost when they don't know how to love the right way. He frowned and hugged me tightly. I don't like it when she talks to you like that. You're the nicest person I know. I held back tears and kissed the top of his head. Don't worry, baby. I'm going to be okay. But the truth was I wasn't okay. And deep down, I knew something worse was coming. Melanie wasn't done yet. She was just getting started. It was the 5th day since my fall. Nathan and I had spoken only through texts and short phone calls. He was still in Westwin handling the project, and I didn't want to worry him, not until I had a clear picture of what was really happening. A part of me still hoped Melanie would come to her senses and stop. But that day, all hopes vanished. It was late afternoon. The room was quiet, and I was reading a message from Nathan on my phone. He had sent a picture of a coffee cup from the airport cafe and a sweet little caption, "Coming home soon. Hang in there." That's when the door opened, without a knock. Melanie stormed in, her face tight with rage. No fake smiles this time. Her eyes were cold, and her lips were pressed in a thin, hard line. "I'm done being polite," she hissed, striding toward the bed. "You're going to sign those papers today." I placed my phone on the side tray and looked at her calmly. "No," I said, my voice soft but certain. She didn't like that. She dropped her bag to the floor, pulled out the documents again, and slammed them on my lap, right over my blanket.
"Sign them," she snapped.
"I'm not playing games anymore." I slowly reached for the nurse call button again, but this time she was faster. She slapped my hand away. I gasped, recoiling in shock. "I'm your sister, Haley," she shouted. "I've waited long enough. You've never deserved the life you have, and you know it. You've always been the favorite. The lucky one. I've had to work for scraps while you floated by. But not anymore. Now give me what's mine." I could barely process her words before the next thing happened. In one horrifying moment, she reached down and grabbed my injured leg, the one that had been fractured and elevated on pillows, and shoved it hard. The pain was instant and excruciating. I screamed, a sound that didn't even sound like my own voice. The shock jolted through my entire body. It felt like fire had torn through my bones. My vision blurred. My chest seized. I couldn't breathe.
Couldn't think.
Then I heard something else. A voice.
Small.
Scared. "Stop." I turned my head, trembling, and there he was, Lucas, standing in the doorway holding a juice box in one hand, his backpack hanging from one shoulder, his eyes wide with terror. The juice box fell to the floor. He ran straight to me, his little feet pounding the tiles. "Leave her alone," he screamed. "Don't hurt my mom." Melanie froze. Her hand dropped. Her face went pale. She tried to recover with a fake smile, but it was too late. Lucas, panicked and brave beyond his years, reached up to the nurse call button and started pressing it over and over, yelling, "Help! Help my mom! She hurt my mom!" The door burst open within seconds. A nurse rushed in first, then 2 hospital security guards. The nurse stopped in horror at the scene, me, trembling, pale, with tears streaming down my cheeks. My leg out of place. The papers scattered. Lucas crying, holding on to me like a lifeline. One of the guards stepped between Melanie and the bed, arms out. "What's going on here?" She attacked me," I managed to say through sobs. She grabbed my leg. My broken leg. "She's lying," Melanie shouted, backing away. It was a misunderstanding. I was just trying to. But no one believed her. The bruises on my leg, the nurse's shocked expression, the security cameras, the trembling child, all told the truth. One guard grabbed her arm gently but firmly, while the other called for the hospital administrator. "You can't do this," Melanie yelled as they led her toward the door. "I'm her family. You assaulted a patient in recovery," the guard replied sharply. "The police have already been notified." Just before she was taken out of the room, Melanie twisted around to face me one last time. Her face was contorted with fury. "You'll regret this, Haley. You think Nathan's going to believe you? You think you can take everything and shut me out?" I didn't say a word. I couldn't. I was holding Lucas, who had climbed onto the bed and wrapped his tiny arms around me, sobbing into my shoulder. And then the door closed behind them. The room finally fell silent. For the first time since the accident, I felt a tiny breath of relief. Not because the pain had eased, it hadn't, but because I knew something had shifted. Melanie couldn't hurt us anymore. Not like that. Not ever again. After Melanie was removed from the room by hospital security, everything around me felt like a blur. Nurses moved in quickly, adjusting the position of my leg, checking my vitals and administering a stronger dose of pain medication. One nurse gently wiped my face, whispering, "You're safe now." But my body still trembled from the trauma, and the throb in my chest wouldn't stop. Lucas stayed by my side, his small hand clutched tightly around mine. He didn't say much, just sat silently, his eyes wide and red-rimmed. I kept brushing his hair with my fingers, whispering over and over, "It's okay. Mommy's okay." But even I knew that wasn't completely true. The pain from the physical injury was now tangled with something deeper, emotional betrayal, the kind that takes root in your soul. Melanie hadn't just hurt my leg. She had shattered a lifetime of trust. That evening, after Lucas had been taken home by Mrs. Langston again, I knew it was time. I picked up my phone with shaky fingers and dialed Nathan. He answered after 2 rings.
His voice was groggy.
"Hey, babe. Everything okay?" I paused, then took a deep breath. "No, Nathan. You need to come home. It's Melanie. She attacked me in the hospital." There was a long silence. I could hear the rustling of sheets and the shifting of his posture as he sat up fully. "What did she do?" he asked, voice suddenly sharp. "She tried to force me to sign over one of the apartments," I said slowly. "When I refused, she lost control. She grabbed my injured leg and shoved it." Lucas saw everything. He was the one who called for help. Security arrested her. The police are involved now. I could hear his breathing grow heavier. "I'm coming home," he said, voice flat. "I'm booking the next flight. You're not alone in this." He arrived early the next morning. The second he walked into the hospital room and saw me, bruised, pale, hooked up to machines, something in him broke. His eyes welled up with guilt and grief. He didn't say anything at first, just walked straight to the bed and took my hand. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. "I should have never left you with her. I didn't know." I shook my head gently. "You didn't cause this. She was going to do it anyway. At least now you know the truth." Nathan stayed in the room the entire day. He watched over Lucas like a hawk when he came in after school, never letting him out of arm's reach. He made sure the nurses checked in on time, brought in warm food, and even sat beside me while I slept, his hand never letting go of mine. But his pain wasn't just over what had happened. It was over what he hadn't seen before. The subtle signs I had ignored. The whispers I had pushed aside to protect our family's peace. Now, there was no more pretending. That afternoon, we called an attorney. Her name was Vanessa Cole, a tough, focused, and incredibly sharp woman with decades of courtroom experience. She came to the hospital with a thick file under her arm and a laptop in her bag. After reviewing the reports, the hospital's security footage, nurses' written statements, and Lucas's recorded account, Vanessa looked at me and said, "You have a solid case. This isn't just a family argument. It's criminal assault, attempted coercion, and property fraud. If you're ready, Haley, we're going to press full charges." I nodded without hesitation. "I'm ready. I'm not backing down." "Good," she said, closing the folder. "Neither am I." That evening, Nathan placed Lucas's coloring book on my lap and said, "We're going to get through this. Together." And for the first time in weeks, I believed him. The legal process moved faster than I expected. Melanie was formally charged with 3 crimes: aggravated assault for grabbing and injuring my broken leg, attempted coercion for trying to force me to sign over property while I was hospitalized, property fraud for presenting fake documents with malicious intent. Her defense lawyer tried to spin a familiar story that Melanie had been emotionally overwhelmed, that she had acted out of concern for me and my assets. They called it a family misunderstanding blown out of proportion. But Vanessa Cole was prepared for everything. She presented the security footage, clear as day, showing Melanie shoving my injured leg, ignoring my pain, and slapping my hand away from the nurse call button. The nurse who witnessed the moment took the stand and gave her testimony with unwavering clarity. Hospital security backed up every detail. The medical reports matched the timing of the injury spike. Everything aligned. But the most powerful moment came when Vanessa presented Lucas's recorded statement. He didn't have to appear in court. Vanessa made sure of that. Instead, the judge listened to a carefully handled audio recording. Lucas's voice came through the courtroom speakers, gentle, scared, honest. "She hurt my mom. My mom said no and she grabbed her leg. My mom screamed. I got scared. I pushed the button like the nurse showed me." Even the bailiff looked down as the room fell silent. Then it was my turn to speak. I took the stand in my wheelchair, still healing, still in pain, but with my head held high. I told the court everything. From Melanie's arrival, to the inheritance, to her manipulation, to the final attack. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't dramatize. I just told the truth. I trusted her, I said softly. I gave her a place to stay. I fed her. I defended her when others questioned her choices. But when I was at my weakest, injured, alone, she saw it as her chance to take what I had earned, what I was saving for my son. That wasn't love. That was greed. When Nathan was called to speak, his voice cracked once, but he remained firm. "She didn't just hurt my wife," he told the court. "She traumatized our son." Lucas had nightmares for days. He kept asking if Aunt Melanie would come back. That's not a misunderstanding. That's abuse. Melanie sat across the courtroom, wearing a stiff blazer and a rehearsed frown. Her eyes never met mine. She showed no regret, no apology. The judge asked a few final questions, reviewed the documents, and then gave his verdict. "Melanie Brooks, you are found guilty on all counts," he said. "You are hereby sentenced to 6 years in state prison with no chance of early parole. Additionally, you will pay $35,000 in restitution to the victim for medical expenses and emotional distress." The courtroom remained quiet. Melanie didn't cry. She didn't plead. She simply turned to me, rage pulsing in her stare, and muttered, "You think you've won. You'll regret this." I met her gaze, calm, steady, and replied, "No, Melanie. You lost everything. And you did it to yourself." The guards took her by the arms and escorted her away. And just like that, it was over. The day after the trial, I woke up feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks: lightness. The pain in my legs was still there. The bruises hadn't magically vanished. And the physical therapy ahead of me looked long and exhausting. But that heaviness, the constant anxiety, the fear of what Melanie might do next, the dread in every breath, that was gone. Nathan stayed close even after the trial was over. He took time off work, cooked meals with Lucas, and sat with me through every physical therapy session. He never said it out loud, but I could see it in his eyes. He blamed himself for not protecting me sooner. But I kept reminding him, over and over, what matters is that you believed me when it counted. That's what saved us. We spent the next few weeks packing up the apartment. The same apartment where Melanie had lived with us. Where she planted her resentment like seeds in every corner. Where the walls still echoed with her cruel words, and the floor felt haunted with her presence. I didn't want Lucas growing up in that kind of energy. I didn't want to look over my shoulder every time I walked into the kitchen. So, we made the decision. We moved to the place I was always meant to keep. One of the 2 apartments my uncle had left me, the one I had planned to save for Lucas's future, became our new home. It was on the north side of Ravenshade, in a peaceful building that overlooked the lake. The windows were large and filled the rooms with natural light. The air felt fresh, and the silence was comforting, not heavy. When we stepped in for the first time, Lucas ran from room to room, his laughter echoing off the clean walls.
"Mom,
"This place is huge. Can I pick my own room?" "Of course," I said, smiling, watching him spin in the hallway. "This is your home too." We painted the rooms together. Lucas chose sky blue for his, of course. Nathan helped set up the furniture while I hung up old sketches and framed designs that had been rolled up for years. My art finally had space. It was like we were building more than just a living space. We were building a new life, brick by emotional brick. At night, when Lucas would fall asleep in his freshly decorated room, I'd sit on the couch beside Nathan, watching the lights of the city reflect on the water below. The same city where everything had broken, and where everything was now healing. One night, Nathan turned to me and took my hand. I should have listened sooner, he whispered. I should have believed how bad things had gotten with her. I squeezed his hand gently. You believe me now, I said. That's what matters. That's what changed everything. He nodded. I won't let anyone hurt you again. I leaned my head against his shoulder and replied, I don't need you to protect me. I just need you to stand beside me. He smiled. And in that quiet moment, with Lucas sleeping peacefully down the hall, the city lights glowing like stars, and my husband beside me, I realized something. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was a survivor. The first time I stood on my own 2 feet again, I cried. Not because of the pain, though it was real. Not because of the ache in my legs or the stiffness in my back. I cried because I had made it. Because despite everything Melanie had done to break me, I was still here. Still breathing. Still standing. She had tried to take everything. My peace, my property, my dignity. She thought that by catching me at my weakest, she could finally win. But what she didn't know was that even a woman with broken bones can rise, with enough reason to fight. And I had every reason in the world. Lucas. Every morning when he woke up smiling in his new room, surrounded by books, toys, and the blue walls he'd painted himself, I remembered why I'd fought so hard. Not just to protect the apartment, but to protect his sense of safety, his sense of family, his future. Melanie hadn't just wanted bricks and walls. She wanted to rewrite the story of my life. She wanted to be the one who came out on top, even if it meant crushing her own sister to get there. But she underestimated me. She thought kindness was weakness. She thought silence meant surrender. She thought a broken leg meant a broken will.
But now?
Every day, when I open the curtains and feel the sunlight flood in, I remember that day in the hospital, when she pushed me, when Lucas pressed that emergency button, when the guards dragged her out, and I thank the universe for giving me the strength to say one small but powerful word. No. No, you can't have what's mine. No, I won't be silent anymore. No, you won't win. My life now is not perfect, but it's peaceful. Nathan is closer to us than ever before. He works from home more often. We cook together. We laugh more. He doesn't just stand by me, he sees me now. Lucas still carries some memories of that day, but we talk about it openly. He knows he was brave. He knows that pressing that button saved me. And every time he kisses my cheek goodnight, I see in his eyes that he feels safe again. As for me, I don't live in fear anymore. I don't flinch at the sound of the door. I don't worry about who's out to get me. Because I know my worth now. I know I didn't deserve what Melanie did, but I do deserve everything I've built. My home. My family. My peace. This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's a story about courage in the darkest moments. About choosing justice when it's terrifying. About rising, not because you were unhurt, but because you refused to stay broken. And if you're reading this, wondering whether you can survive the people who tried to destroy you, listen to me. You can. You already have more power than they ever did. If my story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts or experiences. Leave a comment below. And if you'd like to hear more stories of strength, justice, and healing, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support means more than you know.